Remake Rewind.
Thank you for listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if remakes or reboots should have happened. As always, I am Mike, and with me I've got two co-hosts that are only okay.
I'll
No, I'm just
take
kidding.
it.
That's
We're moving
Alex.
up
How you
in the
doing,
world.
Alex? Alex, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking.
It's the least I can do. Literally the least I can do.
Oh.
And Double D, how you doing, buddy?
What up, Mike? I'm doing pretty good.
Good. I'm glad you guys are doing well. Did you guys make it to the theater this weekend?
We did.
We
We
did.
went together.
Yeah.
Oh,
Holding
I guess
hands.
a little bro date.
Yeah, I mean, there was a
well,
third.
well, yeah. A third.
Who was the third?
So it was Cody.
Oh, nice. Did you guys put a hole in the popcorn bucket?
It was really buttery.
Actually,
so
interesting
it
story
could've
with the
worked.
popcorn. I got a small popcorn with extra butter, and this
Oh,
butter
that's way
was
too big for you.
literally leaking out of the bag.
Mm.
It was crazy.
David
That
turns
would've
to
been
me.
nice
He's
and
like,
slippery for you.
He just the look on his face. I look it down. It's just like butter gushing out. I was like, oh my god.
The bag was like sweating butter. I don't understand how this was possible.
What theater did you go to?
Century?
Oh, that's your problem. You got to go to AMC, bro. Get that A-list.
Nah.
This podcast is not brought to you by AMC A-list, but I am an A-list member, and it's one of the greatest decisions I've ever made in my life.
And that's AMC A-list.
AMC A-list, brought to you by AMC A-list.
Is that free?
When I signed up for it, it was $19.95 a month. Now it's like $24, but you get 3 movies a week. There aren't any restrictions. Like you can do 3D, you can do IMAX, you can do Dolby, you can do Prime, and you get discounted food. You get automatic size upgrades. You get free large
tuned out.
popcorn. What'd you say?
Hey, you know what
It's
is free?
Tune out.
Huh?
A month of Audible.
Oh yeah, you know what? This is a perfect episode to do an Audible spot. Yeah, Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/MDXpods. Get a free audiobook and a free month on us. And what's great is pretty much every Stephen King book is on there, and that brings us to our topic. What are we covering, guys?
Pet
Pet
Sematary.
Pet Sematary. And I can tell you the Stephen King books are actually really great on Audible. I've listened to the first 3 books in the Gun Towers, the Dark Tower series, and I've also listened to It, and they get
Wait,
some
what
really
did you
great
listen to?
voice talent. It,
Yeah, what?
motherfucker.
He listened
What?
to it.
Yeah, but they get some great voice talent on those, and especially in the traffic that I have to drive through. My commute's now like 2 hours, and I was able to listen to so many audiobooks because of Audible. So it's great. Check it out. And I guess let's just get into our topic. Pet Sematary. Have you guys seen either of these movies? Obviously not the new one, because
I
it
have
just
totally
came out.
seen the new one before. No, actually, I've never seen either of these movies. So
Me neither.
I've seen the first one, like, because my sister really likes the original and I like the sequel because I grew up on it and with Edward Furlong.
Oh, Edward Furlong, one of the worst
Furlong.
actors ever.
And Clancy
He just happens
Brown.
to be
He's in it.
Clancy Brown's in it. Oh,
Yeah.
Clancy Brown really classes it up.
really kicks
he's
it up a
he's
notch.
great. He's one of the greatest voice actors of like all time. That's primarily what he does now is voice acting, and
Yeah.
then he also, of course, was in Highlander.
Of
Carnival.
course, was in Highlander.
I love that. I just watched Highlander like a week ago, so yeah.
So you have more of a relationship with Pet Sematary 2 then, Alex.
Yeah, definitely more
But-
to the sequel.
But you've seen this one,
I see.
the original.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen either of them until this weekend. I was in a very, very empty theater for Pet Sematary 2019. Granted, I went to a 4:15 show, but there was like 6 people in the theater. I went to see Shazam the day before, and that theater was packed at 4 p.m. on a Thursday night.
Yeah, we kind of did a very similar thing. We watched Pet Sematary. What it was 3:25 showing,
Yeah.
and there was a total of 10 people in there.
But they
And
were
we,
checking tickets at the
yeah,
very last
we-
minute.
It's kind of funny. We did watch Shazam actually right after that.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that, by the way. We did Superman because of that movie, but I really enjoyed Shazam. What I saw, I had to step out of the theater twice because my doctor's office called me at 5:15 p.m. to tell me that they needed to cancel my doctor's appointment at 8:20 a.m. the next day,
Solid.
which was not okay because I actually am going into surgery this Thursday, and that was my pre-surgical consult, so I needed to go through that appointment, and I had to have it 7 days prior because they had to take like blood and urine samples and make sure everything was okay. So I had to like call them in the after hours and yell at some fools.
They were just
And
gonna
then I had
wing
to
it.
call them at 6
Yeah,
a.m.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Well, it's actually a really
Yeah.
simple procedure, so I'm not too worried. But the doctor's like, we have to get all these tests a week before. So yeah, that was I missed both major action scenes in Shazam.
Well, that's unfortunate. I guess you'll have to go watch it again.
I'm
With your
actually planning
A-list.
on it because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. The bits that I saw, I think the
Yeah,
marketing
it
was
was a
great.
fun
But
movie.
let's get back into the Pet
Sorry,
Sematary.
yeah, Pet
So,
Sematary. Stephen
first
King.
movie, guys. Let's get to it.
I got it. I'll do it. I'll do this one. All right. This one's from Murray Chapman.
What's up, Murray? How you doing?
Shut up. The Creeds have just moved to a new house in the countryside. Their house is perfect
Apollo
except
Creed.
for two things.
Adonis Creed.
The semi-trailers that roar past the narrow road, and the mysterious cemetery in the woods behind the house. The Creed's neighbors are reluctant to talk about the cemetery, and for good reason, too. All right.
I liked how you paused on two for good reason. Two.
Dramatic effect.
You should do some audiobooks.
I'm down. Sign me up.
This movie, watching it initially, like seeing the opening credits, it was just like weird voiceover of just like children whispering and like ghostly voices, and then you see a skunk run by. But it looked like a TV movie. Like it looks like the opening credits to like Law and Order or whatever. It had like the same fonts. It looked really cheap.
It did. It
Yeah.
did look pretty cheap, but
And this had a theatrical release. The other thing I thought that was kind of funny, and it was just more like how it was phrased, was it said based upon UPON, the book by Stephen King, not based on the book by Stephen King. That phrasing is a little weird.
based
and then
upon
this-
the book.
Based upon the book is what the credit said. Based upon UPON. Most of the time you'll say like based off the novel, not based upon.
Based upon the book.
Based upon
Yeah.
the book.
I don't
Based
like it.
on the best-selling thriller.
Right.
Stephen King's
And then the
Pet Sematary.
screenplay was actually written by
Stephen
Stephen
King.
King. And he used to do that too. He also like wrote and directed Maximum Overdrive. I think he may have done the screenplay for Cujo as well, but I don't know that for truth. So I'm not gonna put that out there and say it's fact. But what was your guys'
Um,
opinion of this movie?
So I actually watched this one after we watched the new one. So it was interesting. It wasn't a terrible movie. It was very similar to the new one, I think I could say.
They're very close.
Yeah.
Like I'd say they're good 94.7% the same.
94.7.
Yes.
Rather,
That's
rather
very specific.
precise. Yeah, no, I mean, they're pretty similar. I again, watched the new one first, so I mean, it's a different approach to it, I guess. But I feel like because we watched the new one first, I saw more things wrong with this one.
Well, the thing is, the problem with the so I watched this one first, the original, because I do things correctly. And the problem with the new one is there are a lot of things, and we'll get into it more after we talk about this, and then of course when we talk about the new one, but there are a lot of little nods to this one.
Yeah.
And like if you hadn't seen this one or weren't familiar with it, you would kind of be like, what the fuck is with that shot? Like they really like
the
do
bed,
these weird
bed scene with Judd.
Yeah, and we'll get into it, but there's a lot of things that just kind of cheapen the new movie if you're not familiar with this one, in my opinion. And on this show, guess whose opinion matters most?
Stephen King.
Stephen King.
No, mine.
Hawking.
Damn it. I had to think about that one.
Although Stephen King obviously must have liked this one because he wrote it, but he also said in interviews that he really liked the new one. So there's some weird things with the new one, and we'll get into it. But what was your opinion of the movie, Double D? You said it was weird, but did you like it?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I mean, it was,
Okay.
like I said, there were more things I saw wrong with this one because we saw the new one first, but it was a decent movie.
Okay, what about you, Alex? What say you?
I definitely like this one. I feel I liked it more only because like it's just dumb.
there were a couple things that I liked about this one better, but I kind of want to wait until we've talked about the second one before I say specifically what I liked better about this one. So I need one of you two gentlemen to remind me once we're done talking about the second movie. to have me circle back and say what I liked about this one better. 'Cause I'll
Circles.
forget.
Got it.
Got
All
it.
right.
Circles.
All right. Got circles back.
Circles.
Circles. Okay, so I didn't not like this movie. I didn't necessarily enjoy it, but it was short. It's only an hour and 43 minutes.
That
not
was
even
this,
2 hours.
Wasn't the new one the same length?
This
I
new
feel
one
like
was
new one was
about
longer,
this.
right? Wasn't it
The
like
new one was a little bit longer, but not by much. The new one was like 110 minutes. So still less than 2 hours. So great. Both of them less than 2 hours. That's great when you have to watch 2 movies for a podcast in, a 2-day span. So great. I was for it. So
So what did you like about this movie?
Not a lot.
No.
I
There
like
wasn't a lot of great stuff about the movie.
No, there's really only
I
one
like
thing I thought
Judd
was better.
more, though, to be honest.
The thing with this Judd, he's played by the guy who played Herman Munster
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
and the judge from My Cousin Vinny,
Fred Gwynn.
Fred Gwynn. He in this one it seems like he knew a little bit more. Like he was doing it on purpose to an extent. And we haven't really got into the plot yet, but this one I feel like
I kind of bought the relationship he had with the family more.
So do
this
I.
one.
I agree. I thought the relationship between Judd and the Creeds was more believable. I absolutely do, because he ended up becoming like their best friend.
Though. Like he just showed up and saved the child.
He
and then was
saved the
suddenly
child,
friends with
and
him.
then they start
Yeah.
hanging out. They're having picnics and
Yeah,
other
no,
things.
I definitely got this relationship. I understood it. The second one seemed more forced, and the thing that I had a problem with, and this comes from, I never read a Stephen King book or anything until about a year ago, and I've now listened/read to 4 or 5 books from him. I'm like on the 4th Gunslinger Dark Tower book.
Gun towers, right?
Gun
Tower.
Tower Slinger. The thing that he does is he does pretty much all of his books. He has non-linear storytelling, or it shoots back and forth between different protagonists, and he does that in all of his books that I read. So in it, like it is really hard to follow. Like you really just have to go through it. Like if you stop, you kind of have to start over, because every chapter has a different protagonist. And then it alternates between the past and the present. And then the Gun Tower, same thing. It alternates between time. It also alternates between different narrators, and like it's really hard. And you can tell watching this movie that this book was the same way. That it clearly went back in the past to talk about some of the stuff with the wife. It clearly went in the past to talk about stuff for Judd, and it clearly, probably had chapters that were about Chud, chapters about Judd, chapters about Lewis, and they try to do that in the movie, but there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't really make sense, that didn't add to this, that make a little bit more sense in the new one. For example, there's characters that are completely gone in the new one, which really didn't need to be in this one. So they have like a housekeeper.
Yeah, that was weird.
In this one,
She was just weird.
well, so she shows up and she's like helping them unpack, and she's like talking about a stomach ache, and then like 10-15 minutes later you see her again, and Lewis is like, hey, how's your stomach? She's like, it's about the same. And then the next scene you see her and she hangs herself.
Well, there's also like the cat's getting his nut cut off. You're like, yeah, thanks for that. He's getting
but that was still one of the original scenes of like while they were like getting moved in or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's only in like 3 scenes, and one of them is her death. But it's not like they go to her funeral. It's not like they go.
There's no impact to that at all.
There's
It's just
literally no
weird.
impact. It's not like the daughter's attached and like that's where she learns about death. Like it would almost make sense if in the general narrative, like because essentially
But
in a nutshell,
Doesn't it
the
affect
plot
the
of this,
wife though? I thought it affected the wife more.
not really. Like it probably did in the book.
Because like I thought she's like, and that's how we learn about the Zelda story.
No, so the Zelda story comes up well before that. So I guess what we need to do is I'll try to do like a slightly better synopsis than the one we read. Basically, in a nutshell, these guys move to town, right? Their cat gets run over. They bring it back to life by burying it in like an ancient Indian burial ground. And then the cat is different. It's it's vicious and ferocious. And then
it only
their
targets
son,
Lewis, which I love.
It only really targets him. And then they end up having a tragic accident where their son dies. He's only like 2 or 3 years old. he gets run over by a car, and in his grief, the father buries the son in the pet cemetery, or the Indian cemetery just outside of the pet cemetery, and brings him back, and then the son is evil and like tries to kill everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
It would almost make the whole reason that Judd tells Lewis about the cemetery that brings things back is the daughter is really upset about her, she would be really upset about losing the cat. And the mom has this weird stigma about death. So, they kind of agree that, it would be better to not have to talk about death. So it would have made sense for this woman to die if after they brought back Church, the cat, then this woman dies and it's all for naught. Like they still have to talk about death anyway. Because the whole point was to avoid the death conversation, right?
Yep.
Now, if she had to go to a funeral anyway, and then all this weird shit starts happening, then you can kind of be like, well, I should have never brought the cat back because it ultimately didn't matter because she still had to learn about death. But that's not what happened. That woman's death didn't affect the story at all.
Nope.
Well, also,
At all.
what
Had
I
nothing to
liked
do with anything.
is that they had to bury the cat. Wouldn't a better solution would just being that instead of like resurrecting this cat, let's just go buy a cat that looks similar.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, especially that cat, because it's just a plain gray cat. But the thing is with cats, personalities are different. You can't just go buy another cat.
Yeah, but you could just explain that away by saying we moved and the cat's acting different.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely you could. So, what are some highlights for you? What do you guys want to talk about? Because there are a few things that I've definitely got written down.
Creepy Gage. Creepy Gage jumping down from the ceiling.
Yeah, I have questions about creepy Gage.
I liked it.
So that's the kid. First off, that's the kid from Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop.
He's the one that goes, "Boys have a penis and girls have a vagina."
Oh, is it
Nico
really?
Hughes.
Yeah, that's him. It's the same kid. He just has super blonde hair as like a toddler and had darker hair when he got a little bit older. But he immediately goes crazy. And
as soon as he brings him back, he's like
as soon as he brings
murderous.
it back, ends up at Judd's house, and it's like hiding under the bed. He steals one of his father's scalpels, who's a doctor, and I've actually got some very harsh things to say about the doctor, but we'll get back to him.
Yes, get to it.
He
He'll
slits
circle back.
Judd's ankle with the scalpel, like ridiculous amount, and then kills him. And then his mom happens to come back. Why does the mom go to Judd's house
first? Yeah, that didn't make any sense to me.
So, yeah, the mom goes to Judd's house first, and he kills his mother and, like, carves up her face. How did he hang her?
Demon strength.
Yeah. Baby.
Because he doesn't
baby
show demon strength later.
No, maybe he just drags her up the ladder that he went up, and then
He
ties
created
her
a
up and then pushes her
pulley
down.
system.
He made a pulley system. So that didn't
Somehow
really make sense.
the demon made him way smarter.
I guess. I did like when he died.
It's not fair.
So, we're really jumping around on this, but it's really because this movie makes no sense. So, I think we need to jump back to Lewis, and then we can jump back
Lewis
to like the
Creed.
climax scene. Lewis Creed.
All right, he's
So
from
the whole
Boston, or no, Chicago. In this.
They're from Chicago.
Chicago, and they move into
Chicago.
this countryside. He's a
In
campus
Maine.
doctor now.
Yeah, so they moved to just outside Bangor, Maine, and every Stephen King book takes place in like Maine.
Because that's the main place to be.
Well, that's just where he's from. Idiot.
Maine.
And also,
Place
like,
to be.
this is apparently the story was based off like a similar situation that happened to him. His kid almost got hit by a truck.
That almost happened. And he actually got in a horrific car accident, and then wrote, while he was on like crazy painkillers, wrote what's it called? It's a really shitty movie, and I can't think of it right now. It's driving me crazy. But it had like Jason Lee in it, and
Mallrats.
oh, damn, why can't I think of it? Anyway, he wrote another book where like the guy who caused this car accident, he wrote a character in that movie or that book, Dreamcatcher. He wrote like a character in that had some like terrible shit happen to him, and it's like really strange, but it's based off the guy who hit him. Like they have like the same kind of van and everything. Yeah, it's weird. So Lewis, he moves, and he's a university doctor, right?
Yep.
So he works on like a school's campus. So he doesn't know how to handle like anything. He was supposed to be like an emergency room doctor before. This guy comes in. How did the guy get hurt?
He got hit by a truck.
Get hit
Okay,
by a
so
truck.
Yeah.
this student gets hit by a truck, and he's got like half his head hanging off, right?
Yeah.
And he dies. But then, like, as he's dying, he says, Lewis Creed, he warns him, like, the land is sour, don't cross the barrier.
Oh yeah, who's
Kind of-
tasting these lands?
And he warns him, and he's like, how did you know my name? How did you know my name? And then, like, the guy's dead, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
I like that's his first response though. Like, you're a doctor and you're like, Lewis, he's like, oh my god, you're alive. Let me try to save you. How did you know my name? That might be
Right.
outside this office.
right. So, yeah, right. Or maybe it was in the school paper, like, hey, we've got a new doctor. Any number of things it could have been, but whatever, right? So he freaks out, and it's explained later that this guy, Pascal, keeps coming back because he's grateful to the doctor because he tried to save him.
They didn't
Right?
really.
He didn't really.
Not really, but I mean,
Didn't he
he's a
just, like,
doctor.
say
That's
he was
his
a lost
job.
cause, pretty much.
Yeah, I guess, but if we'll say that he tried to help him, right?
Sure.
He's a doctor. That's his job.
Yeah.
And if the supernatural exists, and just by helping, you would think any number of the people that he's worked on before would have come back to him and been like, hey, Doc, you're a great guy. Here's the winning lottery tickets. Or, hey, don't move to Bangor, Maine. Like, it's just weird that, so he has this experience with this guy, and this guy comes back as a ghost several times and ends up interacting with like other family members, right?
Yeah.
Just Ellie, I thought.
No, and the mom.
And the mom.
Well, not
The
directly.
mom doesn't
just,
actually
like,
see her. Ellie
subconsciously.
the daughter's able to actually see him, but the mom can hear him on occasion.
Yeah.
So, we'll get back to the ghost later. So the thing that really bothered me is, so this doctor covered in blood, right? From this guy's accident. He's in scrubs, and we cut to him sleeping in his bed in the scrubs. You don't do that. Like so my mom was a nurse, and I know other people in the medical field. The first thing you do when you come home after working as a doctor is you immediately take off your scrubs and you take a shower because you don't want all those damn germs. And he was sleeping in
Yeah, the
scrubs.
same scrubs, yeah.
Well, he's
It's
got to build up
disgusting.
his immunity somehow.
No, it's not what you do. You get everybody
the
else
Bangor
sick.
germs.
It's fucking gross. And then he sleepwalks and goes out to the pet cemetery, and Pascal is like, hey, you see this barrier around the pet cemetery? Don't fucking cross it. Like, I'm a ghost. I came back from the dead to tell you not to do this because you helped me. I'm telling you, your whole family's going to get fucked up if you go. Don't do it. Right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So he ends up doing it with going over there with Judd, and like they have this whole exchange where they're burying the animal, and he's like, you love your daughter, right? And she loves that cat. Yep. So you would save her from pain, right? Yep. Cool. Follow me. And they go over the wall and they bury the cat, and the cat comes back like right away, and the cat hisses at him and scratches him. So he wants to inspect the cat, and he grabs the cat by the throat. Like when he's picking up the cat,
He's like,
examining.
shoot through it,
like-
and the cat freaks out and scratches.
Yeah, when he gets scratched, like he gets scratched on the face, and he has to scratch the rest of the movie, right?
Yeah.
He literally picks up the cat, and he's like holding it by its throat, and then it scratches him. In that moment, I wouldn't necessarily think the cat changed or is evil. You're
Well,
grabbing
maybe
him by
that's
the
how he
fucking
normally
throat.
picks up the cat, and he's never gotten hit before.
You don't grab an animal by the throat.
He's asserting his dominance. That's how
You don't do that by grabbing it by the throat. You grab it by the scruff of the neck. That's how you pick up a cat.
Yeah, that was weird.
But leading off of that, my
He's
favorite.
a doctor, not a veterinarian.
That's true. He also mentions that. But
A couple of times.
I love that he goes to Judd. He's like, Judd, what the fuck happened? And then Judd's like, let me tell you the story, Lewis. I brought my dog back, and it was vicious as fuck. So I wanted you to bring your cat back.
But at least he explains, like, yeah, your animal's going to be a little bit different, but at least Ellie doesn't have to experience the death. Like, he tries to rationalize it, and he also says something along the lines of, like, my dog was dead already. Like, this cat just died a couple hours ago.
That
Like,
cat
I thought it
was
would
like
be better.
stuck to the floor when they pulled it
Yeah,
off.
he
Yeah,
peeled it
he
off.
was like,
Yeah, that was
pry
gross.
it off.
So he does that, and then, like, ultimately, Lewis doesn't, like, his wife never knows that this cat died. Oh, no, she does, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, yeah. So she's like, you just need to tell him that oh, no, the wife never knows that the cat died.
Oh, that's
Oh,
the
right, that
second
was
one.
only
Yeah,
the
yeah.
second
Yeah. So she doesn't even know. Like, nobody knows the cat died. He just, like, takes care of it, and he's just going to tell the family that the cat ran away.
Yeah.
So ultimately, the cat comes back. Nobody knows anything different. Like, none of the others really have an issue with the cat, like at all. They like the only thing that they kind of notice is that the cat stinks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So later on, after the kid dies, and like they get in a fight at the funeral, like his father-in-law and him, like his father-in-law decks him at the funeral, and we never explain why. Like we hear like prior to the son dying that they're gonna go to Chicago for Thanksgiving to see his family. He's like, I don't know why I should go. Like that family's never gonna accept him. We never hear why. We just know that the family hates him.
A doctor into the family,
right? So the son dies, and no, honestly, these people are terrible fucking parents. Like at the beginning of the movie, they're just letting their kid wander around. He almost runs to the street, and that's when Herman Munster saves the kid. And then they become really good friends and everything. But then later on, they're at the park or whatever they're doing. They're flying a kite, and the kid just wanders off. They're not paying attention, and then he gets hit by a truck.
And it was Judd's like, don't let him wander off to the street, Lewis. And he's like,
right, don't let him wander. And then they all let him wander. And the kid dies.
That was a long run to the road, too.
Right.
He had his eyes off his child for a long time.
Yeah. And so this kid dies because of negligence.
Yeah, it was bad.
Right. So the father-in-law like punches him in the face. So the daughter and the mom go and visit the in-laws just to like not be around the house because they're sad. And so he brings the kid back. Now I have a couple questions. The cat was fine because it was just dead and they immediately buried it. This kid had his like face stitched up and had formaldehyde presumably.
Yep.
And
he's not just going back as
it's been dead for a while because he doesn't do it right away.
Buried.
You don't have a funeral right away. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the thing is, and like I have even more concerns about the same situation in the newer movie. So he ends up, realizing everything's going bad, and he goes and he gets like some sort of chemical that's killing the cat, and he goes like picks up the cat and like jabs it, and the cat immediately dies, right?
Yep.
So then he goes across the street to Judd's house and sees that Judd died, and he finds the kid. The kid like stabs him and slashes him a couple times, but just stops for some reason. And throughout, the kid's kind of laughing and everything, like, Daddy. I feel really bad for this kid during filming because he like grabs him by the throat. The kid does not look comfortable. Jabs this needle. The kid's just like, it's not fair. It's not fair. And then he goes and dies in the corner. Yeah. And then he lights the house on fire. And you see the kid's body catch in flames. It's super dark.
Well, yeah, it's a Stephen King novel.
Right. And then he finds out that his wife was dead, and he buried his wife, right? Or I guess he found the dead wife first, brought the wife down, buried her, and then went back and burned down the house.
I don't think he buried her. He took her from the house straight to the pet cemetery.
Yeah, he buried her. You have to bury it for it to work. So he buries it. Right. He buries her in the cemetery.
And he's like, oh, this one's going to work.
Down, he comes back.
She comes back in her, don't do it. No.
Don't he walks through it. And he's like, this is different. She just died. He kind of thing. He tries to justify it. And then he comes back and like, he sees her and he's like kissing her. And she's
it's
like,
so great.
Yeah, because his face, her face is like hanging out.
Fucking eyeball
fucking
explodes.
Pus is coming out.
Yeah, like pus shoots into his face. It's disgusting. She's got like fluid. And he kisses her, and then you just see her reach for a knife. And then it cuts to black.
Yeah. And he's like, no!
Right. So, yeah, it's weird. It's definitely corny, and I think there's a good movie in it. Like, I'm interested in the book, because there's a lot of other things that kind of pop up at random. So, the only real thing we didn't talk about was the mom has a sister who died because, she had spinal meningitis, and her parents left her to watch her older sister who had this like super crazy disease. And she talks about how much she wanted her sister to die because she was so sick and going crazy.
So
and
I actually liked this one more. I can see why they changed it in a new one because it's hard to sympathize with her, but it's just weird and dark. Like,
well, it's super dark. Well, and like when I saw the sister, first, that's not what spinal meningitis does, but whatever. You see that, and I was like, is that a man?
Oh, yeah.
And the sister was played by a man.
It is a man.
Yeah.
It is a man. But the thing is, it didn't add anything to the story. So the whole thing is like, it's supposed to be the explanation is why she has like a hang up on death, right?
Because she watched her sister die.
She watched her. Well, she let her. So in this one, what exactly happened? Did she end up not feeding her?
No, in this
she
one,
was
she
choking.
like started choking.
Oh, that's right. She was just choking, and then
And
she said she feels like it's her fault because she prayed for her to die.
No, well, she also just watched her choke until she died.
Yeah,
Right.
and
But
then
I mean, that's a little
she said
understandable.
that she
doesn't know.
she thought she was screaming that she's dead, but she actually realized that she may have been laughing that she's dead, and she was like relieved,
Right.
kind of thing.
Which I can get that to an extent.
Yeah, it's fucked up, but like that's what I kind of like about it, because it's fucked up and it's some like understanding to it, but yeah.
You know, I was just looking at my note. The ghost guy, Pascal, also manipulated the rental car person in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He like, because they're like, he goes and gets the wife and is like, go to your husband, which ultimately didn't stop anything.
No.
Like, it
It
just
just-
caused more death.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't understand. And I feel like that presence would probably make more sense in the book. I think this is an issue of trying to cram way too much stuff in too short of a movie. But yeah, I mean, we hit all the major points. I can see why people liked it. Like, this movie was a success, and then led us to a sequel, and the sequel didn't do as well. But it's not good. It came out in '89. I definitely think it was probably meant to be a TV movie because a lot of, like, The Stand was a TV movie, and The Langoliers was a TV movie, and it was a TV
movie,
miniseries.
yeah.
So I don't know. I think it was meant to be a TV movie, and then maybe they changed their mind. I really don't know. But it definitely was kind of a cheap movie. I did like the design for Pascal. I kind of liked how he looked.
The brain hanging out.
Yeah. But my last note was, she's leaking weird fluid. They make out even though she's missing half a face. Picks up the knife, black screen, no. And then my last note was, fuck this movie. It's bad.
Fuck this movie.
And I also put, and the other thing I said was, listen to the fucking ghost. And I have that note like 15 times.
Listen to the ghost. He's trying to help. What I didn't
Yeah.
get was why Judd stayed in the house while he heard the creepy child laughter from the child that he knew was
Right.
dead. Like, let me go-
Like, he should have been able to figure it out at that point.
I mean, he knew what was going on. He said it was Gage. He's like, Gage, I have something for you. And then he
You
pulls
know
out
what
his
I also
knife.
don't understand?
What?
So I've got another note in here, and it says, there's a point where Pascal goes, it's the end of the line for me too.
Oh yeah,
I'm not,
and he
I'm
comes
not allowed
back.
to go any further. And then he comes back. What? I don't understand. But you know what? And also, we don't see the mom get killed. Like, it's just seen off screen. Like, it's off screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's weird that we didn't see that. It was probably a budgetary thing, but I think we should move on to the second one.
All right.
And yeah, let's go. Let's do it. Alex, tell us what's what.
Lewis Creed, his wife Rachel, and their two children, Gage and Ellie, moved to a rural home where they are welcomed and enlightened about the eerie pet cemetery located nearby. After the tragedy of their cat being killed by a truck, Lewis resorts to burying it in the mysterious pet cemetery. Well, that's inaccurate. Which is definitely not as it seems, as it proves to the Creeds that sometimes dead is better.
Yep.
Dead
So
is
right off the bat,
better.
there are a few things that I like better about this one. I think the whole thing with Judd doing this makes a little bit more sense because there's a line that he has at some point that says, once you experience that cemetery once, you're drawn to it and you'll make any excuse to go back.
So
And-
that's one
So
thing.
that explains it, right?
It's hinted at in the first one, but they never mention it. But the Wendigo is in the book, and it's what lures people in to
Right.
that.
And this one,
Burial
we
ground.
get hints of the Wendigo. Like, they specifically talk about it in folklore. But there's also a point when, like, you can hear voices. And then
Yeah.
there's also a point where when he's bringing, and I'm going to, actually, you know what? Before we get any further on this, spoilers for the 2019 version.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Stop here at this point. We probably should have said this at the beginning of it. There are some differences, so spoilers. So there's a point when he's going to go bury something else when he
kinda
hears
sees
some
it.
like giant footsteps and trees kind of like breaking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You
it's
do see
definitely-
like the outline of it.
Oh, did you?
Like a very faint shadow. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see. I was looking and I missed that. But it's much more heavily implied that there is some sort of supernatural entity in this version.
Yeah.
This movie also starts with seeing the house all bloody. So I'm not sure if that like the whole movie is like a flashback or if this was like some gnarly shit happened in the house before. And
No, I think
then
that
it's
was
like
it's a flashback because you also see the burning house.
yeah.
in
Oh,
the
do you?
beginning.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, same basic premise. They just come from Boston instead of Chicago. Same
Right.
thing. The guy gets hit by a car on the college campus.
Can I just
And-
say, Jason Clarke's voice bothered me this entire movie.
You can say it. I'm not going to agree with it.
Jason Clarke's voice bothered me this entire movie.
But,
it's-
his voice didn't bother me. It's fine.
No, dude. I mean,
The major differences, and I think we should just get the major differences out of the way, is the
spoiler alert.
spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. Like I kind of teased at the beginning, this movie really makes a lot more sense if you've watched the old one recently, or if you've seen it a bunch and you really, really remember it, because every death in this movie happens slightly different, but the original death is teased.
Yeah. it is.
So, for example, Judd in the original movie, he's looking around for Cage and doesn't see him, and then he hears something break, and it's by the bed. So when he goes to investigate the bed, Cage slides his hand out from underneath the bed and slits his ankle open. Well, in this one, Judd is walking around, he sees something break, and he figures that the kid is, and there's the twist, so I'll reveal that in a second. The kid is under the bed, so he kicks the bed and slides, and it's not there. So, we really see that. And then in this one, the kids' deaths are reversed. So in this one, Ellie dies, the older sibling, versus the young one, but it looks like the younger kid's going to die. So you see the same thing. You see the younger kid sees Ellie in the street, so he's running, running. But then the dad, Lewis, saves the younger kid this time. So he saves the kid, and that causes the truck to swerve, and then the truck misses the girl, but the trailer breaks off, and then the trailer kills the girl, right?
Yep.
But once again, it's teasing. You're you're waiting for it, and it's kind of cheap in that it's making you think you're going to get this, and it's supposed to be a twist, but it really isn't. It's not fulfilling. It's just it felt cheap storytelling. Oh, this is what you expect, but we're not going to give it to you. And then it just kept doing that throughout the whole movie. And then same thing, at the end of the movie, the ending completely diverges from the original. It's a completely different ending. And same thing, you think something's going to happen, and then something different happens. So it's just it got to the point where you knew every time you saw something familiar, it was going to be different.
Yeah.
Which,
I mean,
kind of took me out of the movie a little bit, because it's it was almost like an eye roll, well, what are they going to do here?
well, good thing I didn't watch the original one first.
Wait, are we going to talk about the ending or the difference with it? Because
Well, I think
Oh, you're
maybe
gonna
we should
circle
get
back,
to the
Mike?
ending in a minute.
circle.
Yeah,
Circle?
we'll circle back. Oh, so the thing that I liked better about the original one is the reaction to the child's death. So in this one, he just kind of looks really sad, and he kind of drops to the
Stumbles.
ground, and he
tall grass.
and you see the mom just kind of drop to the ground. But in the original one, he just has this really good scream. He's just no,
And it echoes too.
Yeah, it was a really good scream. I really liked that scream. It was probably the best acting of that movie, because the acting was not good in the first movie.
It wasn't great in the new movie.
Yeah, I
either.
definitely like the first scream.
Yeah, the scream is good. So in this one of the big issues I had was the same kind of thing happens. They're concerned about death. Now this one I think makes a little bit more sense why the mom is freaked out about death. They actively show the sister is wanting food, and she's scared to go up there, so she uses the dumbwaiter in their house to send food, and then the sister ends up falling through the dumbwaiter
How?
and dying.
Yeah,
Which I don't understand how that happened.
And it was after the dumbwaiter fell also.
Yeah, so the dumbwaiter fell, and then the sister fell after. And so it was another fake out where it's you hear a scream and a thump, so the little girl opens up the dumbwaiter and sees the elevator crash. So she's kind of sighs of relief, and then you hear a scream, and then the older sister's body falls on top.
Yeah, that didn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's why? I don't know. And same thing, it was just disgusting and gross, the sister.
Yeah, that was gross. Disgusting.
And what I did like about this one is she was distraught, and then it was later on in therapy or something, she realized that she kind of was relieved that the sister died, but it wasn't straight up I hated her and wanted her to die. It was just
No.
it was my fault because if I just wasn't so scared, I could have brought her the food and then this wouldn't have happened. But because I was afraid, I caused her to die.
I think the two needed to be switched because I felt like the mom in the first one really wasn't as distraught about Zelda's death. Like she seemed like it, but she was like passing by.
Well, that's the thing is she actively said in that one, she's like, I wanted her to die.
Yeah.
So it seems weird that she has this stigma. Like she should see the positive of death. Like there are positive aspects of death when people are suffering. Right?
Yeah.
She shouldn't be afraid of death. Like she should, if she actively wanted it for somebody and she recognized that it's better for someone to be dead than suffering, then that makes sense. But in this one it makes a little bit more sense. But what bothered me was there was a point when they're talking about how animals die all the time because they actively see like this weird creepy procession of like a bunch of kids wearing creepy masks coming from a pet funeral. So the daughter asks about death, and both parents are not on the same page when talking to her. Like one, is talking about heaven, the other one's just like, oh, it's natural cycle, blah, 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 blah. So then they go into the bedroom and they're like, what was that? And he's like, I was about to ask you the same thing. And it's like, she's like, you don't believe in heaven? He's like, no, I don't. That girl's 9 years old. It's like she has her 9th birthday in this. Presumably they were together for a little bit before that. So in presumably at least 10 years, they've never had a religious conversation.
Nope.
With him being a doctor,
Yeah,
the
that
idea of
doesn't make any
death
sense.
has never come up.
Sure, it
I-
happened all the
I
time because
think-
they said they moved out there to get away from that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Right.
but-
So my thing is, it's just like, if she has this weird trauma about death, and it seems like she didn't actually tell him how, like, the full story about her sister's death. So like, it seems so strange that these huge topics didn't come up at some point.
What I also would have liked more, and I don't know if the movie was trying to hint at that, but the reason why the dad is like, so like we think the mom has trouble with that, but it's actually ended up being the dad because he's like, oh yeah, after you die is nothing, and that's why he keeps bringing these things back, which I think would have been more interesting as a movie if that was more implied. Like I bring back the cat to protect, because like I believe that nothing is blankness, and that's why I want my daughter back. And the mom
Right.
has like this disbelief,
And then, but the thing is, him learning could have made a little bit more sense. But like
Yeah.
the thing about this one that gets drastically different is, and to an extent, I like this better. So like when they were legitimately going to bury the cat in the regular pet cemetery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Judd, played by John Lithgow, hears like the voices like, bring him, something like, and then he's like, hey, we could do this. And so like they go on this like journey and they go through a swamp, and then lightning starts and they like, they bury the cat, and he goes like, you got to do it yourself. And then the next day the cat comes back and he's like, what the fuck was that? Like, we need to have a talk. And he explains same thing, like, my dog was evil and everything. One of the big things that's missing from this one is, I just realized we didn't bring it up in the last one, is he also explains when he goes back in like, what the fuck happened to the cat and everything. And then he's like talking about bringing back his son, and the Judd's like, don't do it. Somebody did that before, brought back their human like son, and the son went crazy and was like killing people and shit.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, that was gnarly. He was eating like a kid's leg or something like that.
Yeah, he
what
was
the
like
fuck was
eating. And that didn't happen. He was like clawing his own face off and stuff like that. This didn't happen in this one. Now I think it's heavily implied that Judd brought his wife back
Yeah.
from the dead.
Hmm.
But we don't it's not explicitly said. It's not until he brings back Ellie, and Ellie goes to kill Judd, and so she's like, with the whole fake out with the bed, she's actually hiding downstairs. He goes back downstairs, and same thing, she slices his ankle, he falls down the stairs, and then she shapeshifts into Judd's wife, saying like, you sent me to hell, kind of thing. So very heavily implied that he brought back his wife, and then I guess had to kill his wife. I don't know.
He had to have.
So, there's little things that it's a little less explicit, but I kind of like that notion of, once you do it once, you're kind of addicted to bringing people back or bringing things back. So in this version, he brings Ellie back, and initially she's kind of sweet, but even though her face is all crooked and everything, and she's like, hey daddy, and they like snuggle, and he ends up like brushing her hair and
That
sees the staples in his head.
Instant regret in his face.
I love it.
You see,
Was he?
yeah, you see that regret initially, and then you see her dancing, and he's like super happy seeing her dance, and he's
And then
just
she
like, he's
flips
thrilled. He's
out.
like, oh, And then she flips out, but then Judd comes and he like is trying to hide it from Judd. He also drugs Judd in this version.
Yeah, what the hell?
Which is
Roofied
super
him.
fucked up. And then in this version, he's like tries to hide it, but then when like the mom comes back, so in this version, the mom actually knows what's going on. Like,
Yeah, because she knew about the cat.
she didn't explicitly know that he used like an ancient Indian burial ground to bring the cat back. He just kind of was like, well, I guess she wasn't actually dead. He must have just been unconscious. She's like, good thing you're not a fucking vet.
Yeah.
But in this version, he explains that, you know, that he brought her back from the dead, the daughter. And she's like, that's not my daughter. And she explicitly goes to Ellie and she's like, give me a hug, Mom. She's like, you're not my daughter. She's dead. And then she says something. I don't remember exactly what she says. But then Ellie goes on a rampage. And it's kind of dumb because they end up pinning her in the bedroom, right? And they put a desk in front.
Yeah.
Why would she not just put her weight against the
We
desk?
were actually
Yeah, we were
talking
talking
about
about
that.
So instead of like just holding the door shut,
She just
And
does
this
a
is another
Michael
weird thing.
Jackson moment. She's just hanging the baby out the window. I'm like, oh my god.
Well, the thing is, it's also weird because for whatever reason, Lewis goes across the street and invests and sees the whole house is like locked. And he sees Judd dead,
Yeah.
and then he goes back. But it's like I don't understand why he left the house
Because Ellie took off after the mom. Remember they were talking about Ellie's like she's like, no, she's not my daughter, and he saw that she was outside listening to their conversation. So he went to chase after her, and then the door
that's
was
right. He went
open.
after her, and then she
Yeah.
circled back.
Yeah.
He saw the door. She
Circles.
tricked him.
Circles.
That's right. Circles. So
Circles.
she ends up, stabbing the mom a couple times. And then she should have just put her weight against that desk. That girl would have never got out
No.
because
Yeah.
she's not much she does seem stronger
She's not baby
than a
Gage
person,
strong. She's
but she's not like superhuman strong.
No, I
So-
mean, even when they're fighting on the bed, she's like, stop resisting.
Right. So she ends up getting killed because she lets it. So she throws the baby out the window and the dad catches it. And here's some more bad parenting. He just leaves the baby in the door or in the car and walks away.
don't open the door
Don't
for
open
everyone.
the door.
Don't open the door for anybody unless it's me. And then leaves and goes to, and the mom's like, do not bury me there.
Yeah.
Do not bury me. And, he's like, mourning his wife. And then the daughter knocks him out. I don't
Yeah.
understand why the daughter didn't just kill him.
Kill them both.
I don't know.
Because the daughter ends up dragging the mom
All the way.
all the way over there,
Way
which
over
I don't
there.
understand physically how, but she gets the mom over there,
Demons.
buries the mom, and then the dad wakes up and sees the kid in the car still, and it's just like, hey, just stay there.
All right, good, he's fine.
He's
Goes
sleeping.
and is about to kill the reanimated daughter, and then she turns sweet again, like, no, daddy, no, and then he gets another twist ending. He gets stabbed through the back. The mom
By the
came back.
reanimated mom.
And then the movie ends with like the zombie people burning all the houses down, and then you see the kid kind of like waving to them, and then you hear whoop whoop, and then it goes to black.
With the zombie cat. So like,
Right.
what are they gonna do now? Is it like a sitcom afterwards? It's like
Zombie family.
Zombie Family.
Raising a real boy.
I don't know. So it's just all bad choices, and in this version, like the ghost comes a couple of times, like the baby can see the ghost, but the mom can kind of hear it, and I don't. Honestly, I think it would be better without the ghost. Because the ghost didn't really do much in either movie. Like, it didn't really help or prevent anything.
Well, I feel like in the first movie, it was more like
He
helpful,
tried.
I guess, yeah, he tried to help, and that was apparent. But in this new one, like, he's just like, "What are you doing here?"
What's the
Yeah.
point?
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm torn as to whether or not I liked the new one or not. Like, it was short. It was breezy. I went through pretty quick.
I didn't like the pacing. It was an hour and a half, right? But it was like half an hour of setup, half an hour of church zombie, and then half an
Church
hour of Ellie zombie.
Yeah, there was a lot more with Church, how they ended up not liking, like, the girl ended up not liking him.
What's with this family combing hair that can't be combed? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Right.
They're like the
So she
cat.
ends up-
She's like, ugh.
Nothing.
I'm like, you don't
She
do
gets
that.
scratched.
You don't-
She gets scratched in this one instead of the dad. So then she's like, I don't want him in my bedroom anymore. So the dad chickens out killing Church.
Because the puppy eyes.
Right. And if he killed if he killed Church, nothing else would have happened.
That's true.
So
Yep,
he ends
instead
up
of driving him away.
Yeah, so he drives Church miles and miles away, and then at Ellie, and Ellie's all sad because the cat's gone.
Yeah.
And then on her birthday, she sees the cat run down the street, and so she's hanging out in the street, which ultimately is what caused Gage to go run over into the street, which ultimately caused the truck to swerve, which caused her to die. So if he just wasn't a little bitch,
And
it
killed
could
the
have
cat
been fine.
a second time.
Right. And this one is just like bad decisions. I liked the supernatural aspect of like the cemetery actually manipulating people to an extent, or the Wendigo, or whatever you want to call it. And I kind of appreciated the whole like Judd being a loner, and he hasn't been. He explicitly like, I hoped that it would be better. Also, like, the cemetery's calling me back, but I really hoped that we could help Ellie because she's the first person I've connected with in like decades. Like, there was something almost sweet about it, where it did kind of come off almost like in the original movie, almost like Judd could be slightly evil, like he knew exactly what would happen.
Yeah. I mean, I like John Lithgow as Judd in this one. I
thought he was fine.
I felt like this Judd was more believable as a friend, just because he had like no one to get along with, and he explained that like he didn't have anyone for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, they did try to set him up as being creepy initially, like kind of watching them, and the mom didn't trust him for some reason, and even though he helped the daughter with like the bee sting, the original one he saved him immediately, and it was like he was super friendly.
Yeah.
It wasn't until like the whole funeral stuff that for the cat that he got weird. But he in the original one, it always seemed like he knew more than he was letting on.
Yeah, it's true.
Where this one, he seemed conflicted. Like, you can see he didn't really want to do what he was doing, but like it was almost like he was slightly possessed. And I kind of liked there was a little bit of ambiguity in this one. So like there's certain things I like better, and this movie's getting really mixed reviews. Like, I saw one review that said this is the funniest movie of 2019.
What?
And because there are some bad line deliveries, and there's some there's a lot of stupid jump scares and like the weird twists and telegraphs to the previous movie. But then there are other people that say this is the best Stephen King movie.
No.
Which, yeah, so it's like it's getting very mixed reviews. It's got like 60 something on Rotten Tomatoes. It's got like a 6.1 on IMDb. It's weird. I really don't know how I feel about this movie. Like,
I think the real question is, should it have been remade?
I'm torn because honestly, it does. On paper, it hits all the little bullet points that we talk about on what makes a good remake. There's some faithfulness to the original, but it also changes enough stuff to make it different. Also, obviously in terms of special effects, there's a huge difference in terms of production. Like, this movie was beautifully shot. Like, it looks great. I think the acting was better overall. There were a few scenes that it was kind of clunky, but like on paper, this is a significantly better movie. On paper.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But honestly, I don't think either of them are good.
No, I wouldn't say either of them are good. I think it does deserve a remake, but I don't think this was the remake we wanted.
And I do think I think from just a better, and I think it's kind of along the lines of when we talked about Radon, where ultimately I was like, just from a technical standpoint, from like just from a filmmaking standpoint, the new one is a better movie. Right. So in that regard, to say, yes, this is a better movie, but that doesn't necessarily mean we needed it to be made. I'm torn. I think this is the first time that I don't have a definitive answer for me. What about you, Alex?
There are things I didn't really care much about the remake. I feel like it like what I liked about the original was that the dad doesn't learn his lesson, and he does it again with the wife and stuff like that. I don't really care much about the zombie family. I don't understand the point of that.
But I also think that would have been the case in this one as well. That where the mom, because he was really defending his dad, that is your daughter, and the mom was like, "Don't bury me there. Let me die. Do not bury me there." So I think she saw it that he would have done it. I think he wouldn't have learned the lesson. I think ultimately the outcome's the same. I think he would have done everything exactly the same.
It just wasn't really set up for that. For it, like, it's a nice little. I guess that's an arc for the mom then. Like, you know, she's accepting death, but
Yeah, true.
you know, it just leaves you with a bitter taste in my mouth with the ending
Yeah.
that it had.
So with this one, the only real trivia I have, because it just came out, and if you go like all the places I normally go for trivia, more have trivia about the books versus versus the movies. But in this one, the only real trivia fact I had was that there were 5 cats that played church. They each had their own trailer for them and their trainer. They also had like a little playing area that they called the catio, like a patio.
Oh my god!
And but all these cats were rescue animals, so they
Oh.
they weren't previously trained or anything like that. They actually got trained specifically for this movie, and all 5 cats found homes after the movie wrapped.
Yeah, it's in the Indian burial ground.
But yeah, that was good. That this caused 5 animals to get homes. I think that's something good. So I guess that alone, it was worth making a multi-million-dollar movie.
Yeah.
But that's it. You guys have anything else?
No, not really. There wasn't a. No, I got nothing.
All right. So thank you guys for listening to Remake Rewind. Check out our other podcast, Ruin My Childhood. The next episode that we're going to come out with is actually going to be our 2-year anniversary of Ruin My Childhood.
Tree is.
So we're going to be covering Back to the Future.
Whoa.
It's our most requested topic, so that's awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Like we talked about earlier, check out audible.com/MDXpods. Get a free audiobook, free 30-day trial. Support us on Patreon. And yeah, that's it. Thanks, guys.
Later, dudes.
See ya.